Ethan Cole had lived his entire life on the outskirts of Austin, Texas, working in a small, dusty garage that barely earned him enough to survive. Despite the worn-out tools and the cracked concrete floor, he put his heart into every repair. His customers trusted him because he never lied, never overcharged, and never refused to help someone in need. One warm Thursday morning, as he wiped grease from his hands, he heard the soft purr of an expensive engine outside, a sound that didn't belong in his neighborhood. When he stepped out, he saw a luxurious black SUV pulling up slowly. The vehicle's glossy finish reflected the sunlight like a mirror, and for a moment, Ethan wondered if it had taken a wrong turn. But then the back door opened, and a young woman stepped out, slowly, carefully, supported by metal braces strapped around her legs. She was 19, delicate, with soft brown hair and a tired but brave expression. Beside her stood her mother, Valerie Stone, a woman whose confidence and elegance made her instantly recognizable. Valerie was a billionaire, known all over Texas for her real estate empire. Valerie approached Ethan with a mixture of urgency and hesitation. She looked around the humble garage as if unsure whether she should have come here at all. But desperation had brought her. Her SUV's engine had begun overheating on the highway, and her driver had insisted the nearest garage was this one. Ethan assured them he could take a look, but as he watched Amelia struggle to stand without wobbling, he felt something inside him tighten. He wasn't a doctor, but he had a mechanic's eye. He recognized mechanical misalignment instantly. As Ethan checked the SUV, he couldn't help glancing over at Amelia. She sat quietly on a bench, her braces stiff and bulky, clearly uncomfortable. He finally walked over and in a gentle voice asked, "Are your braces supposed to feel that tight?" Amelia blinked in surprise. No one ever asked her questions like that. Most people stared, avoided eye contact, or drowned her in sympathy. She answered softly that she had been paralyzed since she was 8, after a severe accident, and doctors said walking without support was unlikely. Valerie joined the conversation with a sigh heavy enough to reveal years of silent suffering. She explained that they had seen every specialist in the country. Surgeries, therapies, devices, nothing brought Amelia real improvement. The braces she wore were custom-made by a leading medical company, but Amelia still struggled, and each attempt to stand caused pain. Ethan, listening carefully, knelt beside Amelia, not to inspect her like an object, but to understand the mechanics of her support system. He asked for permission before touching anything, respecting her space completely. As he examined the braces, Ethan noticed something that made his brow furrow. The alignment was off, the weight distribution uneven, and the joints too stiff. It wasn't a medical issue, it was an engineering failure. "These are built wrong," he murmured. Valerie straightened up, shocked and defensive. She told him they were made by top experts, but Ethan wasn't challenging their reputation. He was simply stating what he saw. He explained gently that metal, joints, pressure points, these were things he understood like second nature, and he believed he could improve the design. Amelia looked at him with cautious hope, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself in years. Valerie, however, struggled with trust. She didn't want to risk her daughter's safety. Ethan reassured them he wasn't suggesting anything dangerous. He simply wanted to adjust and rebuild the braces using better mechanics, lighter, smoother, safer. He wouldn't charge them anything, because he knew he didn't have the credentials to promise a miracle. All he had were his hands, his skills, and a heart that wanted to help. The billionaire mother exchanged glances with her daughter, torn between fear and the desperate desire to see Amelia walk comfortably again. Finally, Amelia nodded first. "Mom, just let him try," she whispered. Valerie's eyes filled with a mixture of love and helplessness, the kind only a mother of a disabled child understands. She agreed, but only under the condition that she would supervise every step. Ethan accepted without hesitation, knowing trust would take time. He carried Amelia's braces carefully into his workshop, analyzing every bolt and joint. Inside the garage, Ethan spread the braces across his work table like a puzzle he was determined to solve. He noticed that the manufacturers had focused more on appearance than functionality. The joints were rigid instead of flexible, the metal too heavy, and the support straps poorly positioned. Every flaw explained Amelia's pain. Ethan felt anger, not at the company, but at the idea that a billionaire's daughter with every resource available had still been denied something as basic as comfort. He stayed late into the night, sketching designs, testing pieces, and finding materials he could repurpose. When Valerie and Amelia returned the next morning, they were surprised to find Ethan already deep into the rebuild. Despite the bags under his eyes, he greeted them with a warm smile, excited to show the first improvements. Valerie watched silently as he demonstrated how he planned to reduce weight, fix alignment, increase joint mobility, and distribute pressure correctly. Amelia listened with glowing eyes, fascinated by the technical details. For the first time in years, she felt like someone truly understood her limitations, not as a medical case, but as a mechanical challenge that could be fixed. Ethan began working on the redesigned braces with a dedication that surprised even himself. He spent hours shaping lightweight aluminum, adjusting joint flexibility, and testing the tension of every strap to ensure nothing caused pressure burns or bruising. His small garage echoed with the sound of drilling, sanding, and metal adjustments, but there was something different in the air, a sense of purpose. Valerie and Amelia visited often, watching the transformation closely. Valerie remained cautious, but Amelia was fascinated by the process, asking questions that made Ethan smile. He explained each step in simple terms, making her feel involved in her own miracle. Amelia's presence in the garage became a quiet motivation for Ethan. She watched him with admiration, noticing how carefully he worked, treating her braces not as equipment, but as something precious. She shared stories about her childhood accidents, hospital days, and lost dreams. Ethan listened closely, feeling a deep respect for her strength. Valerie, standing nearby, observed their growing connection. For years, she had shielded Amelia from false hope, but something about Ethan's sincerity softened her walls. She saw no ego in him, just kindness and determination. By the third day, Ethan had rebuilt the entire lower structure of the braces. The joints now moved smoothly, responding naturally to shifts in weight. He added shock absorbers at the knees and padded support along the calves. The braces were no longer bulky and restrictive. They looked sleek, light, and strong. When he placed them on the table, Amelia's eyes widened. She reached out and touched them gently, amazed by how different they felt. Valerie felt her heart beating faster, afraid to believe but unable to resist the spark of hope rising in her chest. Ethan decided it was time for Amelia to try them on. He knelt slowly, helping her slide her legs into the braces with careful precision. The new straps hugged her legs comfortably, and the weight felt surprisingly manageable. Amelia gasped softly, noticing the difference immediately. Valerie hovered behind her, hands trembling, unsure whether to hold on or step back. Ethan instructed Amelia patiently, guiding her through small movements, first bending her knees, then shifting her balance. Each motion felt smoother than ever before. Amelia looked at her mother with shining eyes, whispering, "It doesn't hurt." Ethan placed his hands gently near her arms, but didn't grip her, respecting her independence. "Let your body trust the support," he said softly. Amelia took a slow breath and pushed down on the handles of her walker. She rose shakily, but the braces held her upright without the painful wobble she had endured for years. Valerie gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. Tears welled instantly as she watched her daughter stand straighter than she had in a decade. Ethan stepped back slightly, wanting Amelia to have space to feel the moment herself. With trembling determination, Amelia took her first step. Her right foot moved forward, steady and controlled. Then her left followed. She blinked, shocked, then laughed, an emotional, breathless sound she hadn't made in years. Valerie broke into sobs, barely able to breathe. "Oh my God! Amelia!" she cried. The garage filled with emotion as Amelia continued stepping forward, each one more stable than the last. Ethan watched quietly, gripping the edge of the workbench, overwhelmed by the sight. He had hoped for improvement, but witnessing her walk was more than he ever expected. Amelia turned to Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "I'm really walking," she whispered. Her voice cracked with disbelief. Ethan nodded, unable to hide his own watery eyes. "You are. It's all you." Valerie rushed forward and embraced her daughter from behind, crying uncontrollably. It was the moment she had prayed for through sleepless nights, endless hospital visits, and silent heartbreak. Amelia wrapped her arms around her mother, whispering, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm really okay." Ethan stepped away to give them privacy, but Valerie reached out and pulled him closer, thanking him through her tears. As the emotional wave calmed, Ethan suggested more practice. Amelia agreed eagerly, feeling stronger with each attempt. She walked back and forth across the garage, gaining confidence. Valerie watched every step like a mother witnessing her child's first walk all over again. Ethan adjusted the straps as needed, fine-tuned the angles, and encouraged Amelia gently. The room filled with hope, pure, tangible hope. For the first time in years, Amelia wasn't thinking about limits or pain. She was thinking about possibilities. Valerie realized that this young mechanic had done what top specialists couldn't. When Amelia finally sat down to rest, Valerie approached Ethan with gratitude she couldn't express in words. Her voice shook as she told him he had changed their lives. Ethan shook his head humbly, saying he simply fixed what others overlooked. But Valerie knew better. It wasn't just mechanics. It was heart, compassion, and the refusal to give up on a girl he didn't even know. Amelia smiled at Ethan, her eyes warm with admiration. In that moment, the three of them felt connected by something far deeper than circumstance, a shared belief in miracles born from kindness. In the days following Amelia's breakthrough, word quietly spread around town. Neighbors who had once walked past Ethan's garage without noticing now stopped to congratulate him. But Ethan tried to keep things humble. He didn't see himself as a hero. Meanwhile, Valerie and Amelia returned for follow-up adjustments. Amelia's walking improved daily, and each visit brought new confidence. Valerie still couldn't believe that a struggling mechanic had achieved what top medical engineers couldn't. She watched Amelia walk across the garage floor with growing pride, each step a reminder that miracles sometimes come from the most unexpected places. A week later, Valerie invited Ethan to their home to celebrate Amelia's progress. Ethan hesitated, feeling out of place among wealthy people, but Amelia insisted warmly. When he arrived at their mansion, he stood stunned by its towering structure, elegant design, and beautiful gardens. Valerie welcomed him personally, grateful and sincere, treating him not as a worker, but as an honored guest. Inside, the staff smiled respectfully at him, having heard the story. Amelia greeted him with excitement, eager to show the improvements she'd made since his last adjustment. She walked toward him with steady steps, glowing with pride. During the gathering, Valerie introduced Ethan to several influential guests, doctors, engineers, and philanthropists. Each one asked how he had created such advanced braces. Ethan felt nervous, but answered honestly. He didn't follow textbooks. He followed his instincts. His experience as a mechanic taught him to understand motion, pressure, and alignment better than any diagram. While others expected scientific terms, his simple explanations impressed them even more. They saw a man gifted not by wealth or training but by natural genius. Valerie watched proudly, knowing she had discovered someone truly extraordinary. Later, during a quiet moment, Valerie took Ethan aside. She thanked him again with a depth that words couldn't capture. He had restored not only Amelia's ability to walk, but also her joy, confidence, and future. Valerie offered him a full-time engineering job at her company with a high salary, benefits, and a team of experts to assist him. She even suggested sponsoring his education in biomedical engineering. Ethan was overwhelmed by the generosity, but after thinking deeply, he gently declined. He didn't want to leave his garage, the small place where his heart felt at home. Valerie was surprised, but respected his decision. Instead of insisting, she asked what she could do to support him. Ethan hesitated before admitting a quiet dream. He wanted to build devices for people who couldn't afford expensive medical help. He wanted children and adults who struggled like Amelia to have a chance at a better life without the barrier of cost. Valerie's eyes softened with admiration. She promised to help him in a way that matched his vision. She didn't need credit or attention. She simply wanted his kindness to reach more lives. Weeks later, with Valerie's anonymous funding, Ethan opened a new workshop, a rehabilitation engineering center dedicated to designing custom braces, supports, and mobility devices. The building wasn't luxurious, but it was bright, organized, and filled with tools he had only dreamed of having. A sign outside read, "Cole Mobility Solutions, making hope walk." People from across Texas began visiting, each one hearing stories about the mechanic who built miracles with his hands. Ethan treated every patient with the same patience, respect, and dedication he had shown. Amelia, slowly his name became known, not as a mechanic but as a lifesaver. Amelia often visited the workshop to help. She greeted families, demonstrated her walking progress, and encouraged children who felt scared. Seeing her confidence grow was Ethan's biggest reward. Her steps became smoother, faster, more natural. Doctors who had once given up on her now studied the braces Ethan built, amazed by the simple genius behind them. Valerie remained involved quietly, ensuring Ethan had everything he needed without interfering in his work. The three of them shared a bond that felt like family, built from pain, hope, and a miracle earned through compassion. One evening, as the sun set over the Texas horizon, Amelia walked toward Ethan outside the workshop. She stood strong and tall, the warm light reflecting in her eyes. She told him she had been accepted into a physical therapy program inspired by her own journey. She wanted to help others regain strength the way he had helped her. Ethan felt overwhelming pride, knowing she was stepping into a life she once thought impossible. Valerie joined them, placing a gentle hand on Amelia's shoulder, smiling through grateful eyes. They all looked out at the sunset, sharing a peaceful silence. In that moment, Ethan realized how deeply their lives had intertwined. A poor mechanic, a billionaire mother, and a disabled girl whose courage had transformed all three of them. Their worlds had collided by chance, but their bond endured by choice. Amelia had gained her future, Valerie had regained her daughter's joy, and Ethan had discovered his purpose. And as the days passed, people across Texas continued to seek him out, calling him the man who fixed more than machines, the man who fixed hearts, futures, and hopes. Their story became a reminder that miracles don't always come from money or medicine. Sometimes they come from ordinary hands with extraordinary kindness.
Thank you for listening to this story until the end. Hopefully every moment, every detail in the story has brought you emotions, thoughts, and maybe a little joy or motivation. Thank you for spending time with us, and hope that the next stories will continue to accompany you and touch your heart.